Hello, today we're going to be talking about toxic relationships and what you can do to get out of them and how you ought to get out of them and what a toxic relationship is, okay? This video is not just for women. This video is for anyone who has toxic relationships in their lives. So, I don't know, everyone. But I'm here to help. And I'm here for you to hopefully shed yourself of some of those really toxic relationships that don't need to be in your life anymore, and you should get rid of them. Okay, so a lot of people have toxic relationships with their family members. A lot of people have toxic relationships with who they think are their friends. A lot of people have toxic relationships with, work coworkers, whatever. I've had so many toxic relationships, I can't count on two hands and feet how many that is, but I promise you it's a lot. And I'm doing my very best not to do it anymore because it's a waste of my time, it's a waste of my soul, and it hurts you. In the long run, it really hurts you. Causing more stress for yourself hurts you in the long run. Like, trust me. Okay, so I've had a number of toxic relationships, and of course many of them have been romantic relationships, but not necessarily all of them. What I want you to know is that you are worthy of love. You are worthy of being respected. You are worthy of having boundaries, and you are worthy of saying no and having that honored. Okay? A lot of people, a lot of women especially, don't know that, and that makes them stay in really toxic, bad relationships. But you're worthy, and you are loved, and you need to love yourself in order to have a better life, right? Okay, so toxic relationships, I feel like are most frequently having to do with the family, right? That's the number one institution that we all come from, that we all have experience with, that chances are we are all a part of, right? So that's tough, isn't it? Because you can't, especially if you're living with your family, you can't necessarily get away from them. You can't necessarily really create a lot of space between you, and it's just generally very difficult. And then romantic relationships. Oh God. Okay, I again can't count on all my fingers and toes how many women personally I've known who were in toxic romantic relationships with men, because they just wanted to be in a toxic relationship with a man over being by themselves. And that is really upsetting. I was actually talking to my friend who lives in Texas. She lives in an extremely right-wing area in Texas where the culture seems extremely different. She was telling me women don't even hang out together because that's just not regarded well. Like, you can't even, I mean, like, you can hang out with a woman, like, to go to coffee or, like, to go to lunch, but, like, if you hang out with a woman, like, alone for a day, like, if y'all go to, like, a park or on a hike or something, people are like, she's lesbian. Glad I don't live there. Anyway, that is really sexist and really disgusting, and what a great example of a toxic relationship that is. The family really institutionalizes abuse a lot of the time, right? And I'm honestly, every time I hear someone be like, oh, family is everything, like, oh, I do everything for my family, like, oh, hashtag my family, I'm like, is this an abusive situation? Oftentimes it is. Anyway, so just because you have a toxic family member and just because you are in a bad situation with a family member does not mean that you can't get out of it. And it does not mean that you can't improve your situation, even if y'all are living in the same house. Okay? So here's what I've got to say. Me. Sip my LaCroix first. We're all different people, right? And we all have different love languages. We all have different ways that we express love towards others, towards ourselves, towards our friends, towards our lovers, towards our family, right? And a lot of the time, unfortunately, those ways of expressing love do not match up. This is just an example, is like, a lot of the time, one love language is giving gifts. And I think that makes sense. That does actually make sense to a certain degree. But if someone's love language is giving gifts and someone else's love language is not giving gifts or receiving gifts, the gift giver is going to, like, give that person gifts and be like, oh, don't you love me? I bought you this nice coffee maker. And that person is like, okay, but I don't even drink coffee, so you spent like $150 on this shit that I don't want and don't need. I'm saying that's a great example of not being received. And here's the thing that I want everyone to know. If someone loves you, okay? Theoretically. They do not express it to you in a way that you will receive it. They don't communicate it to you in a way that you will receive it. They don't show it to you in a way that you will receive it. They may as well not love you, honestly. And I know that sucks to hear, but, like, if, that person just continues to give you bullshit gifts you don't need, and you keep telling them, okay, I don't need this, I don't want this, and they just keep doing it, and maybe they do in fact love you, but if you can't receive that love, then who cares whether or not they love you? Because they're not meeting you where you're at. And if they can't meet you where you're at and respect you as a person, then be like, fuck off, bye. That's kind of all there is to it. And, like, I know it's hard to let people go in your life. I know that. Okay? But I am a fucking cut and run person. Like, I do not speak to any of my exes, and I hope to God I never will. But that's just how I roll, fam. I don't, if you're a toxic person to me, if you're a um person that hurts me, like I've had like romantic encounters with people, right? And they've like wanted to remain in touch or whatever, and I'm like, no, I don't do that. Like, I literally tell them, I'm like, I need you to delete me on social media. I need you to delete my number. I'm gonna delete yours right now. I don't want to speak to you ever again. Because that's what I prefer to do, because, you know, and that's what I've done a lot of the time in the past too, especially on social media, is I've had people who were once my friends, right? And I see them doing all this shit on IG or whatever the fuck, and I'm like, well, one, we don't talk. We're not in communication. And two, me hitting like on your picture, or you hitting like on my picture once every 4 months is not a relationship. Okay? And I think that social media has deluded people into thinking that something like hitting like makes a loving relationship, and that's absolutely not true. I think a lot of people have narcissists in their lives. I know a lot of people with narcissist parents, narcissist siblings, narcissist, like friends in their friend group, and like that bullshit is just so not worth it. And I truly don't understand why a lot of people continue those relationships when they know for a fact that that person isn't going to love you. They know for a fact that that person is only going to harm them. And that's just not a good place for you to be mentally. Subjecting yourself to ongoing abuse will harm you in the long run. Subjecting yourself to ongoing abuse is you abusing yourself. Okay? And I know, dude, I fucking know that it hurts that you, can't talk to someone, or it hurts that you have to cut someone out of your life. Like, that sucks, but you will be so glad that you did. Okay? You will. I watch this one woman who has I've watched these two people who have a bunch of really great videos about, just about toxic relationships. I will link them below. I just hope that you can understand that you're worthy of love and recognize those people in your life who will not meet you where you're at and therefore cannot love you. And I hope that you can, if you can't eliminate them from your life, I hope that you can at least create distance with them in your life. And don't try to make it work. You can try, like, especially if you're living with someone, especially if you're living with a family member, like your parents or whatever, like, if you can just try to, do the bare minimum and make the bare minimum work, then that's great. And that's, like, really all you should be trying to make work. But then I hope you can eventually, move out and live without this person. Because you deserve it. You deserve to not be abused ongoing. You deserve to not continuously subject yourself to abuse. And you deserve to fully love yourself. And that, more often than not, includes cutting people the fuck out of your life forever. Yeah. I don't understand why so many people have, like, toxic friends. Like, I know so many people who just have, like, the most toxic, horrible, annoying friends. And they're like, oh, I had to go to her bridesmaid party because da da da. Like, you did? No, you didn't. You just need to focus on being autonomous, and you need to focus on loving yourself, and you need to focus on a way that you can get yourself the hell out of that situation, and your life will greatly improve.